in the community. Alright, so in the absence of information, we tend to leap to the worst case scenario. So we thought this session will help us all achieve clarity on what is known versus what is speculation or even exaggeration. This is an important topic that is affecting many innocent lives out there. So we are very honored to have all these all these panelists with us here today to answer all the questions we have and also share with us their views on vaccination. Okay, so first of all, may I briefly introduce our panelists for today? So together with us, we have Dr. Ng, a pediatrician in PPUM. We have Dr. Carol, a public health specialist working under KKM. We have Miss Chun Ying, a religion researcher. We have Dr. Adham Babar from Ministry of Health. Dr. Ahmad Firdaus Muhammad Haris, the co-founder of Medical Mythbuster. Puan Siti, a parent and also an anti-vaccination activist. And Madam Iris, who is a school teacher from SMK St. Mary KL. Okay, so as a panel moderator, I'll be guiding us through this process. So first, we would like to know your overall opinion on this topic. So maybe we can start with our anti-vaccination activist, Puan Siti.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Puan Siti, a parent and also an anti-vaccination activist. So I want to start off my talk with regarding my point. Why do I anti-vaccination? So basically, I have a child as well, and my child received vaccination as well. However, my child had several reactions occurring after vaccination, and particularly some amount which I can tolerate. However, I have a child which have a very serious reaction, which she has suffered from a seizure after she takes a DTaP vaccine, which brings me in concern as well as I'm very in shock because the doctors did not explain that this is one of the side effects occurring after vaccination, which I'm totally feel very anxious, and I'm also very upset due to this. So hence I started my research in regarding about vaccines, and this is how I become an active vaccination activist. So I'll just talk through some of the side effects and reactions due to the vaccine. I acknowledge that most of the side effects are mild. For example, you have fever, you have pain at the injection site, you have rash. But there are also serious side effects related to the vaccine as well, which I'm very curious whether the medical personnel know what are the serious side effects are, and is it well explained to the parents before the vaccine was given, especially those working in the maternal and child health clinic. Do they know actually what are the serious side effects that can happen? And I don't think, for me myself, my experience, I don't get the explanation very well. I only get the mild side effects. They do explain to me, but it's just like take through, and then it's like the risks are more like being downplayed. They just say that it's okay, it's safe, you can just take it, no issue about it. So for example, BCG can cause abscess or bone inflammation, and like my child myself, in using the DTaP vaccine, he get a febrile seizure, and which I'm very curious whether it can cause my child to have long-term seizures or any neurological deficit. So I'm very concerned about that. And also oral polio vaccine can cause also paralytic poliomyelitis, and also MMR vaccine can have temporary low platelet count, which may cause bleeding or bruising as well. So all these side effects, I don't think they are very well explained by the doctors. And I believe any medications or treatment which carry a risk, the people should have a choice in deciding whether or not they want to receive it, including vaccination. So I encourage that we have an informed consent. That means like when you do surgery or something, you sure will explain what are the risks. Like this kind of consent should be given for the parents to decide whether or not they want to receive vaccination. They should have done their own research and own read-ups. And if they feel that they do not believe in vaccine, they do not want to take the vaccine, they should have the right to reject the vaccine. So it's like an informed consent. Doctors have to explain it well, and consent should be taken. So I think that if the vaccines are safe, the parents won't hesitate to sign. However, if there is a risk, the parents have the right to reject. So this is my stand. Thank you.
I'm sorry for your bad experience, One City. So, what do you think about this, Dr. Ng?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, morning, doctor.
Yes.
First of all, Pond City, I'm sorry and it's very unfortunate that it happened to your child. But I agree with you that doctors should explain clearly all the side effects that the vaccine might causes. And the doctor in charge of you obviously did not do a good job in taking care of your child. Uh, yes, some vaccine can cause like seizure and more serious side effects, but it's very rare. It's like maybe 1 to 2 in 100,000 cases. So, but the benefit of the vaccine definitely outweigh the risk that imposed on your child. And just now you mentioned about the OPV that can cause a paralytic side effect. Uh, our country has stopped using OPV and we have switched to IPV, which is the inactivated poliovirus vaccine. So it's safer and does not cause any paralytic side effect. And also, our conventional vaccines is well established. The effectiveness of the conventional vaccine is well established through large scale of studies of the safety and efficacy and being monitored throughout the years. Mm. So the efficacy of the vaccine has been proven and also been is safe to be used. That's my point.
Okay, thank you for the well elaborated opinions from Puan Siti and also Dr. Ng. Okay, so now let's move on to the next part of the session where I will be posing the most often cited questions to our panelists. Before that, I would like to thank all the parents for the questions and also concerns which I received through my email. Okay, so I have sorted through them all and I will be addressing as many as I can during this session. So before we proceed, let's start by defining what vaccine is and understand how vaccines work. Probably Dr. Ng can help us with this.
Okay, so what is vaccine? Vaccine is a suspension of antigen. Antigen is a foreign substance that could induce immune response in our body. So it's a suspension of antigen that is formulated using parts or wholes of virus or bacteria. Either it's killed or inactivated, means it's weakened form. So how does the vaccine work? The vaccine works by acting on the antigen of the vaccine by injecting to our body. It acts to stimulate the immune system to produce antibody against specific diseases and thus strengthening our immunity by priming the defense cells to recognize a particular virus or bacteria. So in the future, when your children are exposed to the disease, they can fight better in the future and less complication from the disease or uh, even completely protected from the disease.
Dr. Ng, why do we need to vaccinate the children at a young age? Isn't it too soon for them?
Mm, because children are the most vulnerable to vaccine-preventable diseases due to their weaker immune system at a very young age. Their immune system is not fully matured and they get a passive immunity from the mother breast milk. So vaccine at a young age may help to strengthen their immune system and protect them from potentially life-threatening complications from all the vaccine-preventable diseases like mumps, measles, rubella, and etc. So it is highly recommended that the children are vaccinated as early as possible according to the immunization schedule by our country.
How about a child who is healthy and also is strong? Do we still need to vaccinate the child?
Yes, of course, because there is no guarantee that the healthy children will always be free from the infection of vaccine-preventable diseases. diseases. So the disease can strike anytime, anywhere. So if a child is vaccinated, he or she will be protected from the disease. So even if she is infected by the disease will be mild and not fatal.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ng. It was very informative. Okay, so
No
next
problem.
one is the most frequently asked question from the parents, which are regarding the side effects and also reactions from vaccination. So what do you say about this one, Siti?
Like I mentioned just now, the most common side effects are the mild ones, the fever, pain at the injection site, rash, swelling, and also we have the serious one, which I've mentioned previously, like BCG can cause abscess or bone inflammation. Some of the most concerning one with the HPV, like can cause chronic neuropathic pain and also some autoimmune syndrome, which is induced by the adjuvants. So this has caused Japan and also uh, Japan, they have stopped using the HPV and they are like revising through. Is there any side effects regarding this? And because although it's rare, but it's serious, so you have to address it. Even one person who gets it, it's serious. So that's why they are concerned. And I think that what Dr. Ng mentioned just now is good. The other doctors should explain it more. However, I question whether the doctors in the health clinic, do they know what contents are in the vaccine, and do they know what adjuvants, what contaminants inside? Can they really explain well to the parents? Because I think they don't know what are inside the vaccine, so that's why they cannot give a good explanation when the parents question about it and what are the side effects. They like not very sure. They are unsure of what they are doing. So that's why I think it's not a the doctors have not done a very good job in this. So that's why the anti-vaccination uh, spirit is high. Yep. Thank you.
So do you think are there any other alternative for vaccines?
Yeah, I think there is alternatives available. For example, traditional medicine and also alternative medicine. So we have been using natural remedies to use to treat our children for have generations, and I think it's more safer than using the modern medicine. So it's our cultural practice to choose for traditional medicine to care for their health. For one example that I can give is based on my research. I have a research about measles, where the disease particularly involved deficiency in vitamins A and C. So I think that we can just top up. I mean, we can build up our immunity system by, you know, eat healthy, and then have a healthy lifestyle. Then we would not need to have vaccination to help us, because some vaccination can offer some level of immunity against measles, but it's not as effective for my opinion. I don't think it's as effective as the natural immunity conferred through acquiring the disease itself, and also through breastfeeding, like what doctor had mentioned just now. However, I also think the vaccination is not 100% safe. So that's why I don't think we should need to vaccinate. And also, we can use homeopathy. So homeopathy is a form of alternative medicine where the remedies are diluted many, many times. So after the dilution will transfer the protective activity of the original material to the diluting water. So homeopathic vaccines, as I know, I've researched on it. The Majlis Perubatan Homeopathy Malaysia had already discouraged this. However, they encourage homeopathic prophylaxis, which we take the homeopathy medications before we have the disease. So it's like building ourselves, building our immunity before we have the disease, and I think that works. As well as I think that we can just take nutritionist food, and then we reduce our stress, we build our minds and spirits strong. I think that is more than enough to protect ourselves from the infectious diseases. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so any other panelists who wish to say anything regarding this matter?
I would like to say something. Regarding your alternative option for vaccination, for traditional and also homeopathic vaccination, there is no scientific basis to support the use of the homeopathic preparation in preventing diseases targeted by the conventional vaccines. And also, the president of the Majlis Perubatan Homeopathic Malaysia also recommend that conventional vaccination with standard vaccines would be a better choice than homeopathic vaccination. And I agree with you that all the doctors in the clinic should explain well to the parents in a layman term, make sure they understand and get consent from them from all the side effects, because all the side effects are very rare, and if it happens, doctor will know how to do and how to treat your children. So I agree with you that all the doctors should explain well to the parents before letting their children get their vaccination. That's my point.
Thank you, Dr. Ng. Okay, so as a Muslim populated country, our health ministry is having a difficult time to convince parents to vaccinate their children. Some of the parents view vaccines as non-halal. So, Miss Chunying, what do you think is the actual cause of people refusing vaccination in Malaysia in general from a religious background?
Okay. Morning, everyone. My name is Chun Ying. So I'm doing religion research about doubts in vaccination. So in Malaysia, actually, we have a national children immunization program started since 1950. So this program, as mentioned by Dr. Ng, it's to provide vaccination to boost up the immunity of the children, so that uh, we can protect the children's life, and then even if they are to develop a disease, it's a milder form and the body can able to cope because they already have the immune system. Okay, so vaccinations to boost up the host immunity and also to build the herd immunity. However, in our country, it's made up of a lot of people from different background, race, religion. So in according to a research concern that regarding vaccination among different races in Malaysia, okay, we found that Muslims, their main concern are halal, which is about 46.1%, and Chinese and Indians are mostly worried about the safety issues related to how the active components in the vaccine work and how it will affect their children's innate immunity system. So I want to move on to how Muslim population think about it. So in view of halal substance inside the vaccine, so according to the Muzakara of National Council of Fatwa Committee, so vaccine is stated halal already and it's permissible and supported by various Islam maxims. So receiving vaccination and allowing vaccination to your children is in line with the preservation of the Maqasid al-Sharia, so which means the objective of the Sharia. So in general, there are 5 Maqasid al-Sharia that must be protected, which is protection of religion, hifz al-din, protection of life, hifz al-naf, protection of intellect, hifz al-aql, and protection of dignity, hifz al-ird, and hifz al-mal, which is the protection of wealth. So vaccination is actually in line with the preservation of life, which I mean the protection of life as mentioned by Dr. So for example, like if you give vaccine, then the patient will not develop the disease which will be very life-threatening. So vaccination is actually quite successful. Like in Malaysia, in year 2012, there actually recorded 0 case of poliomyelitis. So which means that people don't need to suffer with physical disfigurement. The children don't need to suffer with disfigurement in the later of their life if they receive the vaccine, and then they won't develop polio. So according to the Ministry of Health, the number of patients rejecting vaccination is increasing due to the halal component in the vaccine. I mean, there are doubt of the halal component in the vaccine. So we need to understand that the maxim, which means without an obligatory act, could not be achieved, it is itself an obligation. So means that we need to fulfill an obligation, and that it will become an obligation as well. So for example, like Muslim men, okay, every Friday they need to make their Friday prayers in the central mosque. So this is become an obligation already. So when same goes to vaccine, okay, when vaccine is used to safeguard human life, so Allah has clearly stated that it's prohibited for humankind to put themselves into danger, okay, and or self-destruction. So to safeguard means we need to provide vaccine to the children so that to protect their life. So this will have to become an obligation in our country. Okay. Shall I continue to share about the views as well?
Yeah, yes, please.
Sorry,
Alright.
can I say something first?
Okay, so yes, Miss Siti.
Yeah, I have read about something where the Indonesia, the MUI, Indonesia Ulema Council, which is an Islamic organization, a very large organization in Indonesia. In 2018, they have issued a fatwa regarding a fatwa is a pronouncement made on the basis of Islamic law. Well, it's not legal, but it have a large influence on the Islamic population. So, as a Muslim myself, I think that because the fatwa issue is against the use of MMR vaccine because it contains the porcine gelatin, and it's not halal because it contains the porcine component. However, I know that the council later has announced it as a mubah, which is acceptable to use until a halal alternative is available. So as a Muslim, I think that it's best to avoid mubah behaviors as well, even though they are not technically forbidden. However, I'm still very concerned. And I know that Malaysia have planned to develop halal vaccines in our country. They want to produce it themselves, which I think is confusing because the government had already said that all the vaccines available are halal, and then why they want to produce a new vaccine again if it's halal? So I think it's like contradicting themselves. If they are worried about if it's halal, then they won't need to produce it, right? So I think that it's bring me some concern. And then I have read through like a lot of uh, the process of making the vaccines. There are a lot of using animal cells, aborted fetal cells, which I think that it's unethical for the Muslims, and I'm not sure. I can't be sure of the halal status due to they are using all those animal cells, and I'm not sure what animals are being used and whether are those really halal for us Muslim to use it. That's my point. Thank you.
Alright, I understand your concern, One City. So let me explain to you through the research has been done according to vaccination, okay? So according to a research from Islamic perspective by Engku Muhammad Tajuddin et al. So yes, this is believed that vaccines contain non-halal ingredient. However, according to the maxim, which means that certainty is not dispelled by doubt, means doubt without proof is insufficient to go dispelled and establish religion, decree, or injunction. So research and development in Malaysia has produced halal bovine gelatin, which is made from cow. Okay, so as a stabilizer to replace the gelatin made from porcine, which is pigs. So this is because they want to make it as halal as possible, as people will have worried if there's trace of porcine vaccine, I mean porcine DNA in the vaccine. Okay, so however, in all the vaccines already we are able to produce it using cow's gelatin. However, only rotavirus vaccines contains pig DNA. So rotavirus vaccine is not compulsory to receive in Malaysia. However, the other vaccines to prevent the 12 preventable disease are covered by Malaysian government for the people is made of bovine gelatin. So everyone can receive it. Okay, so like in the research I found, okay, same goes to polio vaccine. Now it's made from cells from the monkey's kidney, so it's no longer contain porcine DNA. So it's safe for Muslims to use. Okay, so the next one I'm going to take you through is the maxim that the necessity persists or to make lawful of prohibitions, like what you mentioned just now. So which means that in one situation that endangers a person's life, okay, where the life is threatened, under normal circumstances, the person can do something that is prohibited to save his life. So, for example, when a person is already starving, okay, near to death, so if he able to see any food in his sight, although it is halal, so he is permitted to eat that because to continue on his life. Okay, so in the principle of jurisprudence, the usul al-fiqh, the allowance is referred as ruksa, so which is permission and leniency. So there are different levels of religion decrease in the context of using it. So however, in vaccine, it's made compulsory to use ruksa. So compulsory means wajib. So people are able to protect their lives and protect the children's life against diseases. Okay, and then another maxim in the Islamic perspective, which is preference of the lesser of two harm. I understand that you have concern regarding the vaccines harming your children, develop side effects not being mentioned by the doctor. Okay, I do believe that there can be more better communication between you and the doctor. However, in religious perspective, when there is clash of two harmful substance, we are about to choose the lesser one. So means that if giving vaccine to a person is putting a person at harm, however, the vaccine is able to protect the whole community, so we are about to give the vaccine to the person also, because we are able to protect the whole community from getting a disease, instead of just because my selfish act and then everyone is endangered. Okay, so the next one is the maxim of the ruler's decision dictate in the favor of the people, which means that our government will have to make decision that is favor for the people. So when you receive vaccine, means that we are able to form a herd immunity to protect everyone against a disease. So this include those who are not able to receive vaccine, such as the immunocompromised people, those who will develop severe allergies to vaccine. They are unable to receive vaccine. However, they need protection as well. So therefore, in the National Fatwa Council, we agree that to give vaccine is compulsory to all the rakyats in Malaysia. So this we can develop a immunity to protect everyone under it. Okay, for your views of containing fetal substances, yes, this has been addressed in the Christians' view of vaccination, because they are worried about containing fetal materials. However, through the research done, so the fetal material, actually they started making the vaccine since 1960. So through process of purifying, getting the cells purifying again, so in the end the vaccine actually does not contain any fetal cells already. So if you receive an organ from a person that is murdered, you wouldn't say that you receive because you support the murder. So this is the same principle applied to the fetal material. Okay, So in Christians as well, according to Jeremiah 29 verse 7, we should strive to seek the common good. So same similar like the Muslims teaching, where the harm done to children if it's not vaccinated is greater than if they don't receive vaccine. So we have to vaccine our children. And the next one is according to Christians who generally advocate to service to the humanity. So in Genesis chapter 4 verse 9, that one will be another person's one's brother's keeper. So and to protect your loving and to protect and love your neighbor. Sorry, protect and love your neighbor as stated in James 2 verses 8, and the act of being kind to strangers. So these behaviors, these actions, actually, if you receive vaccine, you are able to, bring up the herd immunity. You are actually kind to people or strangers who are unable to receive it. Okay, so however, in Hinduism and Buddhism, generally they accept vaccination, so there is not much problems in receiving vaccination according to these two religions. So in Hindu, there's no worry, although the bovine gelatin is used, because in research done that they respect cows. However, they doesn't worship the cow as a god. So the respect comes from respecting the cow as a maternal figure and a caretaking figure in the Hindu population. So they does not have problem receiving bovine gelatin vaccination. In Buddhism, they also accept, because according to 5 precepts, they emphasize that prohibit to kill. So I understand that some Buddhists practice vegetarian. However, they does not oppose the treatment of existing illness by a non-animal derived medicine, which is the vaccine, because treatment is an act of mercy. So antibiotic kills microorganism, or the vaccine kills the virus. So this will enable a person to become healthy and continue practicing the teaching in the Buddhism. So preventing disease means preventing disharmony within the body. So therefore, vaccination is accepted in the Buddhist population. So that's all from me.
Thank you, Ms. Tuning, for your explanation.
No
And
problem.
so yeah, now we are very clear that different religions in Malaysia have different views on vaccination. But one thing for sure, all religions accept vaccination. Okay.
Yes.
So for parents have been also curious on the vaccines that are being delivered to their children through the school system. Can you tell us more about this, Miss Iris?
Alright, hi, good morning everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Alright. So currently, there are still some vaccines delivered through the school system via the mobile school health team. At age 7, school children receive the second dose of MR vaccine and a booster dose for DT. At age 13, girls receive 3 doses of HPV vaccination. And at age 15, they get a booster dose for ATT. So, currently, there are a number of issues that schools and school teachers face when it comes to delivering vaccines to school children. The first being some children may come from homes where their parents have strong views opposing vaccination, and the fact that parents may not give consent to vaccination. This may be due to misinformation, concerns about the number and the safety of vaccines given to school children. And sometimes, in rare cases, teachers themselves may have opposing views to vaccination, and teachers may not understand the socio-cultural factors that may affect parents' decisions when it comes to vaccinations. So if they don't understand this, they may find it hard to actually address these issues. So currently in the Malaysian school system, unvaccinated children are still allowed to register. There's a form where parents are supposed to fill up, and the district the health team in that district will actually have to follow up with those parents. but children are still allowed to go to school currently, even though there are many groups that have proposed to the government to make it mandatory. Another thing that teachers may face is that teachers may not have the proper resources to teach about vaccination effectively, be it guidance or training from proper health professionals, appropriate materials, and even time to do so. And teachers are sometimes also not involved in the execution of school-based health checks and vaccinations, so sometimes teachers may not be informed on how the program works. And one more issue is that the current syllabus from the Ministry of Education does not include lessons on immunization and its importance.
Okay, so what is the role of teachers in overcoming these challenges?
Okay, so there are a few ways that teachers can actually address these challenges. The first is that teachers can partner with local healthcare providers like the health mobile team from the district to host health programs. So this can be done two ways. One is for the school children itself. So it can be done during programs which involve the entire school, say during Teachers' Day, during Children's Day or World Health Day at school. And the second way that this can be done is to have these programs during events where parents are also involved, like Sports Day, and to include dialogue sessions with parents. Secondary schools can actually organize health-related debates or public forums on the risks and also benefits of immunization to allow school children to voice out their concerns or their perception of vaccination, to also present new information to their peers. And teachers who organize this have to actually ensure that the discussion is respectful of all perspectives, as these children's views are actually influenced by their parents' views and their upbringing as well. Another thing teachers can do is to incorporate lessons on immunization during school lessons. So we know in biology and in science we do learn about the immune system. So maybe teachers can go the extra mile and actually teach them about the benefits. But the way to do this is to avoid didactic teaching, because what we want is for the students to actually analyze and understand what the problem is and to think critically. We don't want to tell them you have to vaccinate, you have to vaccinate. We present the issues to them and we let them decide, let them analyze what could be the right course of action. So teachers can make these lessons interesting with videos, role play or simulations, interactive games. You can play out the scenarios with the following the two perspectives, pro-vaccination and anti-vaccination, and let them infer at the end how they stand on vaccination. The teaching also has to be structured and focused and not dominated by the teacher. So you have to let the school children take charge. These lessons should encourage the students to discuss the benefits of public health recommendations to the community and to other children, to ask them how one person's decision to not to vaccinate can affect the community, and also ask them to think about who should decide on whether children should receive a specific vaccine or all the vaccines, and should the government have the right to compel on vaccination or not, and whether parents have the right to refuse vaccination. So through these lessons, hopefully the children can identify and develop an understanding on how diseases can be transmitted in a population with and without vaccination, and to examine different views on the risks and also benefits of vaccination, so that they themselves can consider the balance between individual choice and public good involved in the question of vaccination. Teachers can also understand parents' concern when it comes to vaccination, say the number of vaccines and safety of vaccines. So what teachers can do is to provide parents with ample resources to answer frequently asked questions about immunization in collaboration with local healthcare providers. And they also can have lesson extensions. So other than your routine classes, they can give them extra assignments and tasks to make the children think about the risks and benefits of immunization. So this can include reviewing articles and documentaries that have been made on vaccination and discuss with the students on their viewpoint. And when they go through these sources on immunization, make the children think who are the experts in the sources, what are their qualifications, and how do the experts in the sources derive the information. Is it from a comprehensive study, or is it just personal anecdotes, so that we can teach the children about how to get reliable health information. Another way is to also introduce digital game-based learning. This is also for younger children. We have digital comic books and games that are actually free to teach them on vaccines. Teachers can also organize field trips to schools, universities, or research labs, or even to observe an immunization if possible, to alleviate children's fears on vaccination. And this can also spark an interest in them about careers in immunology or pediatric healthcare. So children who are interested can actually act as vaccine advocates to their peers. Even teachers can do this. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you for your input, Madam Iris. So there are definitely a lot of ways to make teaching interesting about this vaccination. Okay, so next we would like to hear from Dr. Carol. So Dr. Carol, can you tell us about the key strategies in improving the vaccination program in Malaysia?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So as we discussed before, vaccination, the mechanism of vaccination, the Dr. Ng has told us. So vaccination is one of the most powerful and cost-effective public health intervention, and then it is part of a health promotion which enable people to improve their health and also to provide health equity to the people. So as mentioned earlier, in Malaysia, we have our national immunization program, which started in the 1950s, and then under the maternal and child health programs. And then the vaccination program gives free vaccine for all children. Yeah, so the vaccine coverage is given through 141 government hospitals, 214 private hospitals, and also given around the country 3,332 primary health clinics around the country. Yeah, so they can get their vaccine from health centers, community clinics, maternal and child health clinics, mobile clinics, and then One Malaysia health clinics, flying doctor teams, and also One Malaysia mobile clinic team. And also, as mentioned just now, also we also provide vaccine through the school health services, which uh, which we go to the school and provide vaccine for the primary student and also secondary school students. Yeah. So overally in Malaysia, we have a high immunization coverage, which is more than 95%. So the way that we can improve our vaccination program is to firstly we need to improve our vaccination coverage. So ideally we want to achieve 100% coverage. So by this so for example we can putting more effort in, and then by reaching the poor and also remote rural areas so that we can provide vaccine for them. Yeah, and then secondly, we can also improve the coverage by giving non-Malaysians free vaccination. So as for currently, if non-Malaysian will need to pay for an amount of fee to get a vaccine. So we can do some program, for example, outreach program to reach them and then to give the non-Malaysians a free vaccine. This is also part of our health promotion to ensure health equity among our country. Yeah, and then next we can also have a surveillance and monitoring program to detect and outbreaks of vaccine preventable disease. So currently a vaccine preventable disease, for example measles, mumps or polio, is a mandatory notification, is a needed mandatory notification, which means once this disease is detected, then it need to be notified to the Ministry of Health, so that we can have surveillance and also monitoring of the disease to prevent an outbreak of the vaccine preventable disease. Okay. Next, we can also allocating funds to research on some of the most common disease in Malaysia, in our country. For example, like malaria, dengue. For example, this disease haven't have a vaccine yet. So in order to so we can also do more researches on this so that we can provide the vaccine in malaria and also dengue in the future. Yeah, that's my point of improving the vaccination program in our country.
Alright, in Malaysia, in the recent years, there are many anti-vaccination movements. So, do you know what are the steps to overcome all these movements?
Okay, yeah. So, for example, we have anti-vaccination. In the recent years, Malaysia has increased in anti-vaccination movement, right? So, like I mentioned just now, we want to improve the vaccine coverage. So, one of the one of the strategy to improve the vaccine coverage is to achieve a higher rate of vaccine acceptance. So, the this it is impossible to achieve a high rate of vaccine acceptance if there is a anti-vaccine movement. So to address this issue, firstly we must know what are the points of the anti-vaccination activists. Like for example, to address the concern of Miss City just now. Uh, for example, she said that most doctors are not well trained and not well communicate not well communicate in providing that information about the vaccines. So for example, for this, we can actually carry out a training program for among the healthcare workers. We should ideally train all the healthcare workers on how to communicate with patients and then understand about the vaccine and also how to give a vaccine. Yeah, and then secondly, we can also have a training program for school teachers. For example, like what mentioned just now. Yeah, and then we also have we also have ongoing forums and also seminars conducted by states in collaboration with other agencies at the local level. So, for example, we can have a collaboration with a religious society so that we can address the religious issue in vaccination, so that yeah, and also we can provide the scientific proven, the clinically proven uh, of the scientifically proven vaccination to the public through these programs, instead of the public searching online for the unknown resources, for example like homeopathy, traditional medicine. Those are not scientifically proven. So instead of the public searching that online, we should reach the public through, for example, mass media or social media, to reach the public and then let them know what are vaccine and then address their common concern and also their problems with vaccination, so that we can have them better and understanding of the vaccine. Yeah, that's my point.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Carol. So, next, Dr. Adham, do we have any law against the parents who refuse to vaccinate their children?
Okay, hi, morning everyone. Okay, so to answer the question, unfortunately, there are currently no rulings or laws to penalize anti-vaxxers or parents who decline to vaccinate their children as per the NIP, National Immunization Program. But last year, our previous Deputy Minister of Women, Family and Community Development, Hannah Yeoh, suggested that parents who refuse to vaccinate their children could be charged under the law for neglect, because there are provisions in the Child Act 2001 that enable the government to take action against parents who neglect their children. And this is a clear sign because there are death cases of children, especially those who were not vaccinated and did not get the necessary immunization. And parents are the ones who are responsible for taking such precaution. So according to the Act, any person who has in his or her care a child that is being neglected, abandoned, or expose the child in a manner likely to cause him or her physical or emotional injury can be fined not exceeding 20,000 ringgit, or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years or both. Okay, however, the executive director of Lawyers for Liberty said Child Act 2001 cannot be used to criminalize parents for not vaccinating their child, because it falls outside the scope of the offence of neglect. So he added that to equate non-vaccination with neglect simply because it could endanger the child would be stretching the scope of neglect too far. So we must First, make vaccination mandatory before resulting to criminal punishment. So now we already started looking into taking action against parents who do not want to vaccinate their children. The government's next move is to make vaccination compulsory. And at the same time, if you want to make vaccination mandatory, there are also things and views that we need to consider seriously. So we are aware that this issue must be addressed immediately. However, we cannot rush into making a decision. There are certain parameters that we must look into, as well as getting cooperation from the stakeholders and other respective ministries to ensure that the matter is handled judiciously, including on the legal aspect. And maybe if there is a need for the laws to be amended, then it has to be tabled in Parliament. So maybe we will do amendment of Prevention and Control of Infectious Disease Act 1988 under immunization section. But actually last year, the ministry had mobilized a task force to study all the proposals in an effort to make immunization compulsory for all children. So the task force is led by the Ministry's Disease Control Division, Family Health Development Division, and other agencies to ensure that it would be more comprehensive. So they had the reporting to the ministry on a weekly basis. And then the task force or the steering committee had sought views from various parties, including government agencies, the private sector, and then NGOs in conducting its study of the proposal. So we are discussing it at both internal and external levels of the ministry and with NGOs as well. So as stakeholders on how to create a policy that ensures every child in the country receives immunization vaccine. So the outcome of the discussion obtained by the ministry will be discussed at the ministerial level, and if it gets a green light, it will be in turn be tabled at the weekly cabinet meeting. So as of now, committee has almost completed its study on the proposal and will present the findings to the ministry lah. So the findings will then be discussed at a pre-cabinet meeting and then before we raise the matter to the cabinet. However, on 21st January this year, Malaysia had announced its first COVID-19 case, so our focus has been diverted to this pandemic situation first. But I assure you that our government will continue to look into this matter and take a stronger stand in order to enforce the law against anti-vaxxers and make vaccination mandatory in Malaysia.
But doctor, why does Malaysia take so long to create or change the law?
Okay, so you notice that these laws can sometimes take ages to change or be introduced. So if there is an issue of strong public concern, why can't the government just quickly make a new law to address the problem, right? So without looking into arguments of political will, the answer is simply because any proposals to introduce or change a law has to go through the parliament and the agong before it can be accepted. So I'll just go through some steps for the law to be introduced or changed. The first one is recommendation. So a draft legislation is proposed by a certain minister or ministry. So a committee will be set up to draft it, like what we are doing now, the task force. Okay, and then the next is formulation. The contents of the draft legislation is usually formulated by the Attorney General Chambers of Malaysia before being introduced as a bill into Parliament. The bill is the Rang Undang-Undang. Is basically the proposal to introduce a new law or make changes to an existing one. So it provides the general structure and idea of how the law will look like, pretty much a first draft. Okay. And then once all parties are satisfied with the bill, it goes to the first reading in Dewan Rakyat. So the first reading is perceived to be just a formality where a minister in the Dewan Rakyat reads out only the title of the bill. So and then we proceed to second reading in Dewan Rakyat. The second reading is regarded as one of the most crucial in this process, where the bill goes through a parliamentary debate on its principles and contents in the Dewan Rakyat. Then after that, we go to the discussion at committee stage. the contents of the bill will be discussed thoroughly at the committee stage in Dewan Rakyat, and then we proceed to third reading in Dewan Rakyat. Members of the Dewan Rakyat will be notified in this stage that the bill has gone through the first three stages. If there is no objection, then the bill is ready to be passed to Dewan Negara. So, and then the debate in Dewan Negara goes through a similar process as it did in Dewan Rakyat, but the Dewan Negara can only delay a bill's passage by a maximum of a year before it's sent to Yang di-Pertuan Agong. And then once the bill is passed in the Dewan Negara, then it will be submitted to the Agong to obtain his consent. So it's a very long process that we need to go through. In our case, we are still in the first step, which is formulation of the proposal or draft. We have not got into first reading yet. It may look easy, but we must give ample time for the stakeholders to come in and engage us, and subsequently for us to listen to them. So it's not as easy like when we want it, we get it. So it has to be step by step according to the federal constitution, the Perlembagaan Persekutuan. Yes.
Sorry, I have something to say regarding about the mandatory vaccine. Is that okay?
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah. So as an anti-vaccination activist, I have something to say about regarding individual rights. Because I don't think that the people in the government or the people in the medical industry, they have the right to inject something into our body without our own consent. If we can't reject, then there is no individual rights, and the government can just give us anything they want. So it's like violating our rights in deciding whether we want to receive that treatment or not. So I think it's the patient's right whether to receive or not, right? I don't think that the mandatory vaccine is appropriate for us to implement in our country, as most of the people maybe don't have serious side effects due to the vaccine, but how are the people that are affected due to that, how they feel? I don't think the people can understand what those people have really experienced through, so that's why they can say it easily. So this is my view regarding about mandatory vaccine.
Okay, regarding that, we are still the study is still going on, so we still need to seek some views from various parties. So okay, we'll take that into account.
Regarding to the individual right as proposed by Miss Siti, so in this in vaccination, we have to look at the bigger context. So we have to take you have to take community right into account. So for example, vaccination is a very good example of how we prefer community right over individual right. So if one individual doesn't vaccinate his or her child, then there is a risk of outbreak of a vaccine preventable disease, and then which can cause a high morbidity and also high mortality. So we have to achieve herd immunity. That's why we have to prefer community right over individual right. So I acknowledge that there might be some serious side effect of vaccination. However, that is very rare. For example, like the febrile seizure that one of the child of Miss Siti had. So, however, the side effect of vaccination is still manageable, easily manageable than the vaccine preventable disease. So we have to weigh the risks and benefits, and then we have to take community right into consideration instead of just putting individual right at first, so that we can thrive as a community. Yeah, that's my view on this matter.
Yeah, thank you. I think that I know what is herd immunity, and I know the community rights that you all are saying about. But I think that my thinking is like, why I need to sacrifice my child in order to protect others. I think that most anti-vaccination will think that most of the public will think that anti-vaccination are doing neglect. But I don't think. I think it's the opposite. we are the ones that doing the most research about vaccines. So that's why we think that anti-vaccination is actually protecting our child. I think that this is our point. I think that we should opt out if we have done a lot of research and we have already weighed the risks and the benefits. We have done our own research, so that's why we choose to opt out instead of taking the vaccines. So I think most of the anti-vaccination are not doing neglect. They are doing more research than others. So that's why we have these kinds of thoughts. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so any panelists have anything to say about this?
Yeah, I know that most of the anti-vaccination activists has done their research through various of online reading. However, did they ever check the source of the readings that they read? Is the source is for example, there are various of sources in the internet. For example, like conspiracy theory, something like that. Did they ever check the eligibility of the sources, and then so that yeah, and that's most of the sources are not eligible. Yeah, so that I think instead of searching through the internet, they should do their research through proper channel. For example, by asking the doctor, by communicating with their doctor, and then by communicating with some of the organizations available in our society. Yeah, that's my view on this matter.
Yeah, just to talk about the conspiracy theory that have been brought up. So actually, there is a theory regarding Americans have do a polio vaccine with anti-fertility agent against to sterilize Muslim children, which is this is proposed by the president of the Nigeria Supreme Council for the Sharia law. So they are saying that they want to depopulize the Muslims, so they inject anti-fertility agents. So I think this is quite widespread among the Muslims. We know about this theory that they are going to depopulize the Muslims in particularly. And mostly, I think the vaccine companies are controlled by the Jews. So they are trying to destroy the Muslim people in the world by giving them vaccines. So this theory is quite widespread among the anti-vaxxers community. And I think that vaccination is really a profit business. They are doing this just for profit. For example, Bill Gates, he have funded the World Health Organization with lots of money and try to convince them to conduct experimental vaccination programs. And they are ignoring the disease prevention programs instead. He had said that this is a means of achieving one of his personal goals, which is to reduce population. So he is not a doctor and do not receive formal medical education, but he publicly advocate everyone around the world to take vaccine. If this is what happened, then he will be richer than what he is now with his Microsoft team. So I think that they are doing this for profit, and they are like developing it. And I think for the COVID-19 now, they won't have much testing. They will just market it out, and then because everyone is desperate now, so obviously this is a high risk for someone to inject something into your body, and there's the right to reject it because you have the right to protect yourself. So I think that yeah, this is my point for the theories. Thank you.
Okay, Puan Siti, please allow me to further explain to you a bit. So yes, I do know that there are research saying that the reluctance receiving vaccination due to there is problems with people thinking that enemies of Islam wants to weaken or resolve Muslims, and is told onto social medias by those who claim they are very high qualified, highly educated of doctors. However, we need to know that we need to validate, where are the sources from. So from your Nigeria's country, the point of view, they actually have their own sort of fatwa meeting as well. So actually, this is already overridden. So we need to understand that when you have doubt, you need to go to the proper channel. So for example, like what Dr. Kara had mentioned, you need to move forward to ask doctors what are the side effects instead of searching from online. So because online there might be a higher chance of bias. Okay, so for example, you say that giving vaccine is to demolish the Muslim people, Muslim religion. So if you don't receive vaccine, okay, such as Australia, they have already has the law that if children does not receive vaccine, they are unable to go to school to receive formal education. So uh, if you don't vaccine your child, okay, they will not have a chance to receive formal education and they will be left behind. So do you want it will become a population that being left behind because just for the fact that they doesn't want to vaccine their children. So without receiving formal education, how can you bring forward your religion into a more prosperous future, isn't it? So I
Yeah.
think that you need to come forward to ask and verify your data, verify your sources with the personnel that are more specialized in this field. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with what you have said. But regarding about the vaccination, you have to receive vaccination before you can go to receive education, right? I think this is discrimination against those who doesn't want to receive vaccine. So you previously have mentioned that vaccination is not 100% protective, right? We can still carry the disease if we receive the vaccination as well, maybe just a milder form. So doesn't mean that the anti-vaccination child they are willingly carrying the disease, unload it to the population. Those who receive vaccination, they also have the chance to bring the disease to the population. So I think that this is a discrimination against those children who doesn't receive vaccination just because we have different opinions or different views regarding about vaccination. I think this is not fair. This is injustice towards those who think that vaccination is a harm.
Hi, I'd like to add something to that. Currently in Malaysia, I don't think there is much of a discrimination against unvaccinated children because they're still allowed to register in school, still allowed to go to school. The only difference is that their parents will have to fill up a form and follow up at their district health office. And no one else knows other than their class teacher. So I don't know I personally don't know of any discrimination cases myself. It could be, I mean, it could happen, but I don't know of any.
Pon City, please allow me to give my opinion from the medical point of view. So I understand your concern that you're saying that why should I sacrifice my child from the you are worried that your child might experience the side effect, all those serious side effect. Why should you sacrifice your own children for the sake of other children, right? But actually, if your child is not vaccinated, your child has higher risk to get a fatal complication from all the vaccine preventable disease than getting the serious side effect from the vaccine. So I think that vaccine is definitely the risk of the side effect of getting vaccine is definitely outweigh the benefit is definitely outweigh the risk of getting the side effect of the vaccine. So in a simple term, your child has higher risk of fatality from the vaccine-related disease than the serious side effect from the vaccine. That's my point of view.
Moderator, you close the session, please. I think you're all kalah already. Puan Siti menang.
Okay.
You're all got no what got that? No facts to fight Puan Siti. That's the problem, you see, of the anti-vax. So they're very educated, like Puan Siti, very well versed with the evidence, and doctors, all the doctors here don't know anything, cannot talk to the Puan Siti. How can you go into what? So Puan Siti, thank you very much. You are very, very well educated anti-vax. Okay, close the session, moderator.
All right. So
Summarize and then close the session. Cannot let the session run for too long as this
okay.
type of session, so that you make sure that, because you don't want people to fight. All right.
Okay. So yeah, we're getting close to the end of the session. So if there is one thing that you would like to the audience to take away from this session, what would it be? Any panelists?
Maybe I can start off first. Okay. So as an anti-vaccination activist, I think that the public a lot would say we are unintelligent, uneducated, irrational, saying those reactions happen coincidentally, not related to the vaccine. So I wish that there will be more compassion from those who are pro-vaccine and also pro-mandatory vaccine side. And we want acknowledgement that we have our own rights, and then we encourage to have an informed consent before getting those vaccines. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Other panelists?
Sorry, before ending our session, can I introduce some of our NGOs, and also I'm the representative for Medical Mythbuster, then I will talk a bit about it. Okay, is that okay?
Yes, please.
Okay, so what is Medical Mythbuster? We are a non-governmental organization comprising of healthcare workers like doctors, nurses, pharmacists, dentists, dietitians, and assistant medical officers that uses social media to educate the public on health issues. Our Facebook page, Medical Mythbuster Malaysia, is managed by 28 doctors and 2 pharmacists who will answer questions posted to them about medical matters. Our founder, Mr. Dr. Muhammad Samiullah, said it was set out to disseminate accurate, credible, and quick information to the public. And what do we do to support anti-vaccination? Actually, we propose travel bans on family with unvaccinated children, and they need to pay for medical service in full without government subsidies. Besides, we also propose mandatory vaccination for government school. And because if the child vaccination is not complete, so if the child vaccination is not complete, parents are to complete it or send them to private school or homeschool with proper mechanism to monitor them so that education is still not jeopardized. This is our proposal. We also suggested that reimbursement of income tax for parents who fully vaccinated their children. And we actually did a petition for mandatory childhood vaccine, which with around 12,000 signature, and it was presented to when we write to health minister. And so what we wanted to achieve with this petition is to raise awareness on the dangers of vaccine hesitancy. Hesitancy, which is one of the 10 global threats by WHO on public health. And we also want to achieve herd immunity, in which enough people in population are vaccinated, then the disease vaccinated against has less chances of spreading and ultimately will disappear. And other NGO that I found, one of it is Pramaniaga Berhad. They expect to invest around 100 million over the next 2 to 3 years in facility to manufacture halal and cost-effective vaccine at its existing life science plant in Puchong, Selangor. Also volunteer and medical professional also, they went to Kampong Mangkang Linau for to provide free clinic to provide vaccination and also prenatal examination to the villagers. Mercy Malaysia, they set out a vaccination clinic for refugees. And they are Malaysian Pediatric Association, and also they collaborate with Asian Strategy Alliance for Pneumococcal Disease Prevention. They launched an advocacy campaign to encourage Malaysians to put their hands out in support of pneumococcal vaccination. They also collaborating with Malaysian Society of Infectious Disease and Chemotherapy and also Ministry of Health Malaysia. They mount Immunize for Life, which is an expert-driven community education initiative to promote immunization for all ages against vaccine-preventable disease. Okay, that's all from me.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ahmad Firdaus. Okay, so any other takeaway message from any panelists?
I think from the public health point of view,
We should
have more proper channel and more program to reach out to people like Puan City to let her understand more regarding the benefits of vaccination, and also to address her concerns, and also uh, address her concerns about the myths around vaccine. Yeah, so that we can do that by reaching through social media, and also through various programs. So we will implement it in the future, and hopefully it can reach out to more people. Yeah, so that we can let people know about the importance of vaccination.
Congratulations, all of you have done a very good job. I think two of you done the better one is Puan City. Puan City is very good. I think all the rest of you wasn't able to convince her to change. So what do you learn from here? I think
Uh, Now I know that anti-vaxxer is actually very informative, and they actually do a lot of research online. So that we should address this by several public health intervention, like I mentioned just now, to have a proper channel on better reaching out to them. Yeah. For example, social media, so that they can easily find a better channel for their information. That's what I learned today.
Okay, if I may add lah, okay, I realize that anti-vaxxers tend to afraid for small risks rather than bigger enemy here. So we need to fear the disease, not the vaccine, actually.
the problem is the polio is so successful. Why do you still need to give polio?
Because there is still occasional outbreak of polio in Malaysia, especially in Sabah. Yeah, I think in recent years there are several outbreaks in
Yeah,
some
last
of
year.
the kampung. Yeah,
Last year, 2019 recently.
so that we should give polio vaccine to achieve herd immunity. Yeah, this and coverage more of the rural areas.
I think she need to understand about when individual rights is important and when community rights is important. This is important to advocate in the anti-vaxxers, because herd immunity is achieved through community together work together to achieve herd immunity. So if more person, they need to understand the vaccination to the rate of it. So like some vaccines need 95% coverage so that it will bring the cases down. So I think she need to understand about from this perspective, and then understand the literature in the religion as well, where the communities, when there's two harms, you choose the less harm. Means you need to protect the community instead of individual only.